Episode number 192. Giving this citizen, too, good night, as he confronted him at his counter, he laid the scrap of paper before him. Phew! The chemist whistled softly, as he read it. Hi! 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 Sydney Carton took no heed, and the chemist said, For you, citizen. For me. You will be careful to keep them separate, citizen. You know the consequences of mixing them. Perfectly. Certain small packets were made and given to him. He put them, one by one, in the breast of his inner coat, counted out the money for them, and deliberately left the shop. There is nothing more to do, said he, glancing upward at the moon, until tomorrow. I can't sleep. It was not a reckless manner, the manner in which he said these words aloud under the fast-sailing clouds, nor was it more expressive of negligence than defiance. It was the settled manner of a tired man, who had wandered, and struggled and got lost, but who at length struck into his road, and saw its end. Long ago, when he had been famous among his earliest competitors as a youth of great promise, he had followed his father to the grave. His mother had died, years before. These solemn words, which had been read at his father's grave, arose in his mind as he went down the dark streets, among the heavy shadows, with the moon and the clouds sailing on high above him. I am the resurrection, and the life, saith the Lord. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth, and believeth in me, shall never die. In a city dominated by the axe, alone at night, with natural sorrow rising in him for the 63, who had been that day put to death, and for tomorrow's victims then awaiting their doom in the prisons, and still of tomorrows, and tomorrows, the chain of association that brought the words home, like a rusty old ship's anchor from the deep, might have been easily found. He did not seek it, but repeated them, and went on. With a solemn interest in the lighted windows, where the people were going to rest, forgetful through a few calm hours of the horrors surrounding them, in the towers of the churches, where no prayers were said, for the popular revulsion had even travelled that length of self-destruction from years of priestly impostors, plunderers, and profligates, in the distant burial places, reserved, as they wrote upon the gates, for eternal sleep, in the abounding jails, and in the streets along which the 60s rolled to a death which had become so common and material, that no sorrowful story of a haunting spirit ever arose among the people out of all the working of the guillotine. With a solemn interest in the whole life and death of the city settling down to its short nightly pause in fury, Sydney Carton crossed the Seine again for the lighter streets. Few coaches were abroad, for riders in coaches were liable to be suspected, and gentility hid its head in red nightcaps, and put on heavy shoes, and trudged. But the theatres were all well filled, and the people poured cheerfully out as he passed, and went chatting home. At one of the theatre doors, there was a little girl with a mother, looking for a way across the street through the mud. He carried the child over, and before the timid arm was loosed from his neck asked her for a kiss.